What's up, AfterBuzzers? Welcome to the Kidding After Show. We are talking episode 5, The New You. Love is in the air. Emphasis on the V, if you know what I'm saying. So we have a lot to talk about, so stay tuned.
You're tuned in to AfterBuzz TV, the ESPN of TV talk. Now, let the buzz begin.
I need new shoes like Jeff. I need to upgrade my shoe closet. What's up, you guys? Welcome to the Kidding After Show. We are talking The New You. We have a lot to discuss. Jeff is acknowledging some of his anger. Sebastian, we kind of see the upbringing that he gave his children, a little bit of a flashback, and more progression on what he wants to do with the puppet show. And speaking of puppets, there's a really gross display of a puppet we will talk about later. But before we get into that, I'm Steph Sabraw, and I'm joined by two lovely ladies.
Hey everyone, I am Mina Wahab.
And I am Takira Shabrae.
And Rocky Harris will be joining us for episode 6. We will be breaking that down after we talk about episode 5. But let's get right into it, you guys. What did you think about this episode?
I liked it, but there's something going on with this series where there's never an episode I dislike, but I feel like the pilot episode set the bar so high where I keep yearning for that feeling of like extreme euphoria and like laughter that I felt and the darkness that I felt in the first episode. I feel like this episode just had like, it did everything it needed to do and like kind of like tied a little bit of loose ends, moved the plot forward a little bit with like Deidre talking to her dad about her failing marriage and like little steps being taken by each of the characters. But overall, I'm just like, I want this to move faster and I'm getting a little impatient, even though it's going at the pace it needs to go at. As the viewer, I still want it to be faster, even though it's being done in a great way. I'm just not fully enjoying it as much as I want to for this episode specifically.
Yeah.
Okay. I can kind of see where you're coming. I know we talked off camera a little bit about that. I can kind of feel where you're coming from. I don't know if it's because the episodes are only 20 minutes and it leaves you wanting more. But I do want to ditto on the dark humor. I think it's more dark right now, which, you know, I appreciate there as long as it teaches us something. But I can kind of ditto. I liked a couple of things that we picked up from this episode in regards to Seb and his interaction with his kids. I know we'll talk about that, but yeah.
I see what both of you are saying. I think a lot of it has to do with just like the director being Michael Gondry, and that's like a fantastic film director, so we're seeing that incredible visual, but I think it takes longer for stories to be told. And then also, you guys, after we hit the topics, we will have a Jim Carrey gem. Mina will present that, and some news and gossip by Takira. So, and then wrap it up with some predictions. Jeff is acknowledging his anger, and we see this, and he's becoming a little bit more self-aware, but obviously with that, there's some steps being taken back. But before that, we get to see a flashback of a fantasy sequence of young Jeff playing hockey, and Seb is screaming at him to beat up another kid, and Jeff pounds him so hard that blood's on the floor, and it's like this very visual scene, and then you're kind of like, oh, I'm starting to see that father-son dynamic. And do you think this is purposeful to present why Jeff is acting out the way he is now as an adult?
Yeah, I think he never fully, like, we see this happen where he said like this very iconic quote a couple episodes back where he says, I am a man, I don't have to act like X, Y, and Z in order to be a man. So I think he's always kind of been aware of his father's toxic masculinity and how he has to kind of like fulfill this role of being like more aggressive, more masculine, and he's always kind of strayed away from that. And I see that that's kind of where the clash is between him and his father. But that's also why he's so great at being a children's TV show host at the same time. So I feel like it's almost to the degree where like he wants so badly to portray that image of being like this kind man and not blowing up, where we see in this episode he's like, I'm Mount St. Helens on the inside, even though I have this exterior that's so like happy and like kind of peaceful. I'm not feeling that way internally. So there's like kind of two ends to that whole thing about being aggressive versus like what is being manly, like what is being a man. So I feel like he fights with himself and feels like he needs to be the opposite of what his dad wants him to be, because he saw it being so toxic growing up.
And here, on the other side of another relationship Jeff's dealing with Vivian, we see him freak out at the table, and he says, "I have a tremendous amount of pent up anger, and I don't know where it's coming from or how to stop it. Every day it grows and grows." And she kind of has this affect on him that's very, very calming almost. How do you feel about this relationship? Do you think this is healthy for him? Because we see him writing songs now about clouds and kind of dealing with the unknown.
I think the meaning of the cloud song was not just about clouds.
Yeah.
So, I just think he maybe did a better job at hiding it. But I think this relationship is in somewhat a good balance for both of them. Like, it's almost like you don't want to be in a relationship that you're sometimes being exactly the same. Like, you want to be in a relationship that helps you grow, not in a toxic way. I don't think Vivian is the one that is making him lash out and produces anger and just be angry. If anything, she's helping him be who he really is, and it just so happened to be who he really is. And so a lot of people would say, oh, Vivian's really bad for him. He has anger issues now. I completely disagree. I think she is helping him get to a place where he's comfortable expressing himself, the same as what he's trying to do for her. It's almost like they're two imperfect people just trying to meet somewhere in the middle. So no, I like the relationship in the sense of he's trying to find ways to express himself. It's completely on the opposite end of the spectrum right now, and I think he'll mellow out and find a happy medium.
And I love that there's something about her that's so non-judgmental, where, I mean, she is kind of like cynical of the world and judgmental in the sense that she judges everything around her. But when it comes to him, I feel like she loves that he finally like let go and showed his anger, because it showed a more authentic version of Jeff Pickles, that you don't have to have everything together, that it's okay to be angry, like it's okay to express your emotions like that and have a blow up once in a while. It shows that you're more human and you're not like this, like, kind of like what his family was complaining of before. Mr. Pickles can do no wrong. He's just so perfect in the way he handles everything. He's not angry. He's giving money to the person who accidentally killed his child. Like, this is showing a more human element, and I think that relationship between him and Vivian, it just works so well, because he's trying to lift her up and show her that there is a point to life, while he himself feels like there's no meaning in life right now. So it's kind of like he's convincing her of something that he needs to convince himself of first. And I think through helping her, he's also helping himself.
Yeah. And on the complete opposite side of emotional spectrum, we have Seb. And I do want to touch on him quickly about in this episode, because he had two moments which were very uncomfortable for me to watch. When he's talking to Deirdre and she says when Jeff's gone she wants to become the heart, and Seb says, "Oh, I see, we're back in our living room. He's 7, you're 8. He's belting Streisand in perfect pitch, and you're in the kitchen accidentally dropping frying pans. You're good at building corpses, Dee Dee. You're not great at bringing things to life." That's Jeff's territory.
Yeah.
And then we also see him using the grandparenting skill of teaching someone not to smoke a joint, and that it's breaking his dad's heart by smoking a joint. So I just want to quickly hear your thoughts on Seb and kind of his range of emotion. I'm confused by him, but he's also really funny to watch.
I think he's hilarious to watch. It's almost like that old man that you don't say anything about because at some point he's just gonna die and he's just stuck in his ways, sort of thing. I feel like he really upset me in telling Dee Dee that, "Oh, you're fine. Oh, he's not gay. Trust me, I'm a Navy man." Like, it's just stuck in that stereotype. And I think I mentioned it before. He is like the epitome of the stereotype of a man in means of like that definitive masculine,
nuclear
like
family.
Just no leeway, no understanding of different dynamics and different levels, layers of what a man can be. That got under my skin. That's all I'll say, because I think we're all dittoing a little bit on him.
I do think that he is very layered, though, and we don't see all of it right away, but he does have empathy. We know that, like, just in the way he interacted with the kid, it was very unconventional, but for him to go all the way there, pick him up, smoke pot with him and then say never do this again, and by showing him like
ASMR videos. Oh my god.
It was just like a very bizarre thing, but like you kind of notice that he's like, you're breaking your father's heart, stop doing this, and he's like he cares. He genuinely cares. But at the end of the day, it's like he's wearing two hats where he's balancing being a father with being like the main guy running this whole children's show, that these two things are at odds with one another. He has to separate himself, separate the father from the businessman.
And so then it connects Seb and Will and their position and their relationship with Jeff. And it puts Jeff in a really uncomfortable position where he's expressing that he feels less valuable now. Because now Seb has done the parenting to teach him why he shouldn't smoke. And I actually really like this part with Will being like, he said it in one line and you would take an entire speech basically to convey that message from me. And then also with Seb trying to force down everyone's throats that there's going to be a Mr. Pickles on Ice. And now there's new writers and there's a new brand ambassador, Olympic gold medalist, Miss Tara Lipinski, spokesperson for tobacco free and leukemia. And then I said, but it looks like there's Coke on her nose and introduce. So I'm not sure. Do you think these are smart business moves, or do you think this is just Seb also dealing with emotional issues himself and they're manifesting in this control?
Let me just say I love Tara Lipinski. Yeah. When I was a kid, it was all about Tara Lipinski, Sacha Cohen, Michelle Kwan, and I was like,
Michelle Kwan!
This was such a random cameo, though, like, after all these years. Like, it was just so random. Like, I kept thinking, like, how did Tara Lipinski get on this show? Like, this, like, in what dimension? And the whole Mr. Pickles on Ice thing. Like, all of it just felt really bizarre, like, when a company decides to do something drastic for views or to spruce things up, and it's like, why would you take the show in a totally different direction? You're totally killing the concept. Well, like, Mr. Pickles is the show. It can't go on without him unless you do something like mind-blowingly better.
He's crazy, though. He's going crazy in their eyes. So I can see, like you said, it makes business sense in a short answer. But is it the right direction? Like Mina's saying. So I get it. Trust me. Like, you got to make money. You have to have a plan B, C, D. You have to have the whole alphabet. And, you know, I don't think it should happen, but yeah.
One interesting thing that we did find out is that there's only one rule between Seb and Jeff, and that's that he has to give most of the money away, and that's what gives Seb all this control. Power. So it is interesting and cool to see that Jeff does put his money where his mouth is. Like, he's not just preaching goodness. Like, he really is doing a lot of good behind the scenes and not making a lot of money from it. Unfortunately, we are running out of time, so we do have to get to I don't want to forget our Jim Carrey gem. Mina, what are we watching?
Let's do it. We are watching an iconic scene from Yes Man. All about saying yes. The episode, or the clip that we're about to see, feels very cult-like, in my opinion, in the sense that people are chanting the same words over and over again, like, no man, no man, no man. You're going to see this in just a second.
It is.
But yeah, you know, it's interesting. Like, I kind of chose this one because I feel like, you know, Jim Carrey is being told, or his character at least in this show, not in Yes Man, is being told no, 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 over and over and over again. And it's because, like, his dad is the one in control. Like, there are other people that they have to please for the network, and he's just trying to get all these things done. He's being told no over again. But this movie kind of puts it in the perspective of, don't even say no to yourself. Like, always say yes to opportunities being presented to you.
I love it.
Right.
It's one of those movies that I constantly say that line over in my head, like, yes, man, just say it.
I'd like to welcome our new members. Who among you is new?
He is! This guy right here! He's new! Over here!
Come on up! Future yes man.
That's okay, I'm just auditing.
His first
You can't audit life, my friend. Now get on up here.
This
No
was
thanks,
one of those
Uncle.
movies that got like
sorry.
such a pretty low
What was
Rotten
that you
Tomatoes
said?
score, and I'm always like, did you listen to the
said,
viewers?
Right?
Because we loved this.
Before that. Thank you. Back up just a little bit more. No.
I love it.
Although I would like to say sometimes it's okay to say no to not please people.
Yes.
You know?
Gosh.
Yes.
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 You
Yes.
don't always have to say yes.
You are right. There
Love it.
are limits, but overall, it's so true. Like you have to be uncomfortable. You have to be comfortable with the uncomfortable. And this was like the prime
much
of Jim Carrey film wise, where it was like every movie he was coming out with was like a yes man. Like I loved it.
Yeah.
Great choice, Mina.
Thank you.
We do have some news and gossip.
Yeah.
It is a video. Takira, can you give us a little background of it?
Absolutely. So this is a ridiculously interesting clip of the behind the scenes of, I think it was episode 2 or 3, whenever we see a character that pretty much said Jeff Pickles saved her. So we see her going through this trauma of her boyfriend, leaving her boyfriend, all of that. So we think that it's just a really cool edit where they're just, you know, going through, maybe shooting different clips and piecing it all together. Oh no, my friend, this is a whole behind the scenes cameo. So I want to read a quote by Dave Holstein. He said, quote, "We spent an entire Saturday choreographing this one shot. We brought it down from 3 minutes to 1 minute and then 42 seconds. It involved 50 crew members, a special built set with walls that flipped, and it's just this continuous shot of a woman over 5 years going from drug addict to a better person." So let's check out the clip. It's amazing.
It really is.
And camera.
So the bottom is, if you're joining us via YouTube, if you're joining us on a podcast, please feel free to log in. Like, we really want you to get take a look at this. But the bottom is what we saw on the show, and the top is like this mastermind of choreography. It's like a beautiful dance on set. I mean, it's beautiful. They're going like seconds and different people going in and out, placing the props, changing the lighting, changing the camera angle. This entire scene was one shot.
It's crazy.
It's beyond amazing. And it's interesting, the lady that is walking, that's supposed to be the main character, there's actually 2 women involved. In 2 different outfits for one part when they showed the back of her. So it's so interesting. I thought it was really cool for news and gossip. So, but thank you to all the creators there. That's absolutely brilliant.
Yeah,
And
I'm so glad you
kudos to
showed
guys.
that because
Yeah.
it really does put the perspective, like it's a whole team making what you see on screen.
Yes.
Love
yes.
it.
Amazing.
And that does, if you guys are listening on YouTube, make sure to hit that like button and leave us a comment after so we can keep the conversation going. And if you are on iTunes, make sure to rate us those 5 stars and also leave a comment there because we still want to talk to you. But we will be talking about episode 6 right now, right after we finish this. But if you won't be joining us, where can we find you guys?
You guys can follow me on Twitter at Mina Makes Magic.
And you can find me, Takira Shabrae, on Instagram and Twitter at Takira_Shabrae.
And I'm Steph Sabraw. You can find me on Instagram and Twitter at Steph Sabraw. Thank you guys so much for tuning in.
Bye. Join us episode 6.
Our founder, Keven Undergaro, Phil Svitek, and me, Maria Menounos, would like to thank you for tuning in to AfterBuzz TV. Remember, we're not just the first, we're the biggest in the world, and we're the only destination for all your favorite TV shows. Whatever you crave, we've got it. So go to AfterBuzzTV.com and check out our lineup. Buzz you later.
The views expressed herein are those of the hosts only and do not necessarily reflect the views of AfterBuzz TV or its owners or principals.